Hi, my name is Joel Manning. I'm the brewmaster at the Mill Street Brewery. We're here in the Distillery District at the Toronto Brew Pub. We're going to go behind the scenes today though and show you a little bit more than what you normally see on a regular tour. We're actually going to show you everything from start to finish, how we make the beer and all the stuff that makes us brewers and makes our beer as popular as it is. So come on with me. We're here in the brewery now. This is our original brewery. This is where we opened in 2002. We're in a tank house down here in the Distillery District, which is why our flagship ale is called Tank House Ale. Beer is a really cool thing. It's a quintessentially Canadian thing. Traditionally, it's normally made in countries where you can't grow grapes. And the reason why is because it's made from barley, which is a cereal grain, which gets malted, and then we extract sugar from that and we turn that into booze. So totally makes sense that Canadians make beer and we distill it and we make whiskey out of it. What the vessel here behind me is our mashing vessel, and what we do is we'll take grain that's up in our mill room. We will crush that barley malt, the grain. It will come across overhead here. The grain will get dumped into this mash tun, mixed with water and turned into a mash. What happens is that the starch in the grain turns to sugar. It gets really sweet. Takes about 90 minutes for that to happen. And then we rinse the sugar away from the grain over into the brew kettle and we add hops to it. I'll show you that when we get up top. The grain I'm talking about is barley malt, and there's whole different types of barley malt. And generally it's different because of the color and the amount of caramelized sugars that are inside it. So if you just take regular pale TORO barley malt, regular stuff, and you make a beer out of that, you'll get something like our organic log. If you start adding dark malts to it like this is chocolate malt. It doesn't have any chocolate in it, it's just kind of chocolate colored. And if you start adding little bits of that, you start getting all the sort of deep golds, the pale copper, the deep copper, the mahogany, and eventually black by blending different colors of malt. So all the color in beer comes from barley malt. All the alcohol and sugar that's in beer also comes from barley malt. So really important to us. So we're up here in the brew house deck. What we do once we have those sugars, we rinse those sugars out of the mash, we run them over here into the brew kettle and we add hops to them. Hops look like this. They're a little kind of green flower. They're the female flower of a vine. These ones actually come from here in Ontario. We add them for bitterness and we add them for flavor. So hops are a really kind of key part of beer. Actually, legally, the legal definition of beer requires that it has to have hops in it. So you can't make beer without hops. Once we're done mashing and making the sugar and then boiling that sugar solution with hops, we cool it down, we pump it into one of these tanks, we add yeast to it and it goes through fermentation. Whether it's a lager or an ale actually matters as to what type of yeast is used. There's two species used by breweries. There's a lager yeast and there's an ale yeast. Lagers ferment a lot colder than ales do. They ferment slower and they ferment kind of more cleanly. They make a milder kind of tasting beer. Most lagers generally are kind of more mild and mellow than ales are. Ales ferment quite warm. They ferment and they make really a lot of robust kind of flavors, and they're more beery, if you will, than lagers. At the end of fermentation, lagers get cooled down and they age for about a month here at Mill Street. Our ales get cooled down. They only age for about another like 10 days to 2 weeks after fermentation. We want to keep them young and really fresh and really robust. So the reason why this beer is cloudy is it's not filtered yet and it still has its yeast in it. Some of our beers are unfiltered. Most of our beers, however, do get filtered and get carbonated or charged with nitrogen over here at the filter in the bright beer tank. So I'll take you over there and show you that next. So around the corner here at the brewery where we do all of our filtration, we have a couple of bright beer tanks. Bright beer is like a bright light. Before, this is the Pilsner that we just took out of the tank around the corner, and you can see it's cloudy. It's got all of its yeast still in it. It needs that yeast in it during aging in order for it to develop flavor and kind of really mellow out and get really nice. What we'll do is we'll pass that beer through a filter, which is right here, and it'll come out the other side of that filter looking like this. This machine uses a filter powder, because a really porous kind of clay that the beer goes through and the yeast gets trapped in, and that's all we do. It's a real coarse kind of filtration. We do it to remove that yeast in most of our beers. That yeast has a real literally yeasty kind of fruity flavor to it. Some of them we want that flavor in, so we leave that in the beer. Other beers, especially classical lagers like our Pilsner here, we want to take that out and we want to then carbonate it, which we'll do in the tanks here. So it will go through our filter. You can see the before and after is pretty dramatic. It also gets kind of darker. The yeast is kind of cream colored, and so once you take that out, you can see the real caramel tones of the malt that we use in this beer, and the before and after is pretty significant here. So we're here in our keg fridge. We have 15 different beers that we brew and have on tap at any time, and that includes a couple, usually 2 or 3 rotating seasonal beers that change every 2 or 3 weeks. So there's a whole pile of different beers in here, and it's really kind of like air traffic control in here with new beers coming in and empty kegs coming out. We also do cask beer, which I've got a little guy right here, which is one of our little old English style. It's actually an English-made keg. These casks we make about 2 weeks before we need them. We will take beer that's in aging, still unfiltered, the cloudy stuff I just showed you in the brewery. We will add a little bit of really violently fermenting beer to it. We'll often add some hops to it. In this case, we've actually added chocolate nibs and chocolate extract to make a chocolate porter here, and then we bung them shut. We leave them in the brewery for about a week. We have a little rack in there where we let them sit and let them ferment away, and then we bring them in here to cool them down and let the CO2 dissolve. Every Thursday and Friday night here at Mill Street, we will put these on tap, and they're delicious. If you're down here, if you're ever wondering what cask beer is, it's unfermented, naturally carbonated beer in the rough, still coming right out of a cask. So I'm getting thirsty just talking about this. So we'll go to the bar and I'll show you the business end of what we do here. So here we are at the bar. This is where you come to drink, which is the most important thing that you can do with beer after you're done making it. We do a lot of beer dinners and we host a lot of special events down here. We have a menu that pairs really well, and there's suggestions on the menu for pairing beers with the food that you come. So we're all about kind of just in making beer part of your life and part of having a lot of fun and just kind of living. So hope to see you soon. Cheers.